service not only means your time and your talent, it can also be your treasure. There are people that are very, very busy. And I have met people who say, just tell me what you need, how much money you need, and take it and do something with it. Don't ever turn down a donation. Treasure works also. And the Diocese of Texas had a big campaign, and it goes on year after year. Nets, mosquito nets. You can donate a net a month, 10 nets in 1 month, or 10 nets at one time. But mosquito nets save lives. These are families that live in countries where mosquitoes carry such deadly germs. And not having a net over the bed at night leaves them very open and vulnerable to catching diseases. And you can also use, Heifer International. And there are other countries that need clean water, animals, co-ops or projects that encourage women and families to be self-sufficient. So think about these things. And I know our time is so very precious to us, but don't turn down the treasure. And I don't think it's being impolite or rude to even suggest, And sometimes if you give people an alternative, the first thing they're going to say, I'm so busy. Well, if you would like to make a donation, your donation will reach very far. And sometimes they'll jump right at it. Yes, just let me know, tell me how much to write. And you just go with it. There are some other things I wanted to mention, and in large, I won't say in large urban areas, but I'll say that, but it depends on the economics of your community. There is a program called Backpacks for Kids. Now, have you heard the term food desert? Food deserts are communities where children are not being properly nourished for many different reasons. The food bank in our area will supply backpacks for the weekend. Let me tell you about this. A lot of students and families are eligible for the free lunch program. Well, that does take care of the children for breakfast, for lunch, for Monday through Friday. On the weekends, there is nothing for them to eat. We have parents that have to, earn an hourly wage. Sometimes they get work on the weekends, sometimes they do not. And children are not nourished on the weekends. With this program, the food bank works with the counselors, usually the counselors, but the counselors will have a good idea of who's eligible and who's needy. A backpack is prepared for each student that needs it for the weekend. And that carries over. That child will take that backpack home Friday and will bring it back Monday. None of them come back with food in them, I guarantee. Now, they try to be as discreet as possible. They don't want it obvious. The child will get that backpack either through the counselor or the school nurse. They take it home. Nothing is said about it. Oh, you got your food backpack. None of that. None of that. That's just totally forbidden. So the child does have something to eat for the weekend. That's something else you can investigate. Also, with food banks, sometimes $1 can be worth 1 or 2 meals. So that's one way to stretch your dollar. And you can get the bang for your buck. So investigate those organizations that will tell you, for $10 we could do 10 meals, 15 meals, or whatever. Check all of that out. Now this one was really cute, and I enjoyed this one. Drive-through prayer. There are 2 areas in Houston. I was saying drive-by. My son said, don't you dare get up in that front of that podium in front of us. They said drive-by prayer. It's drive-through prayer. And they put out flyers and signs in the community immediately surrounding that church, like a few days ahead, and say prayer will be available for you between 8 and 10 or 8 and 11, whatever hours they choose to do. Now this may be something that some of the men of the Brotherhood of St. Andrews or a husband or a daughter can participate in. And they put the signs out, we will be available for prayer. You don't have to get out of your car. So persons line up. They actually do drive by, ask for prayer. People will see it come off, and you know, I wasn't going to stop by here. I didn't think it was anything important, but it was something on my mind. They just want to talk. You don't have to be 15 minutes with one person. Like I say, it's drive-through. You can do whatever intervention the good Lord sees fit for you to do. And they have had people to actually return to church services because of those few minutes of being in prayer for someone, with someone, and that sort of thing. But you know, that's a unique ministry. It's something to think about. It's not something that you should do by yourself. Lone females, you know, this sort of thing. Think about safety first, but it does serve a purpose. One young lady was speaking about her priest, and I really want you to commend that priest. Go back and thank him again for being so proactive with the daughters. And to have some good suggestions and to give you that encouragement not to give up and to keep with it. Having an active priest, and you know, sometimes they need to be reminded, we pray for you every day. Or just to think, maybe those priests did work on that priest. We must pray for our clergy. Absolutely, on a day-to-day basis, and for our bishops. I love the shawls that were being knitted. Also, think about lap shawls. You don't have to do, you know, sometimes you get scraps of yarn. You can do lap shawls, just like lap quilts.
We do pet shawls, child.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
We actually have printed bags for delivering the shawls. It comes with an envelope that has explains the ministry and has prayers in it and a care how to take care of it.
I am so impressed. Now, don't you see, this is great because someone out there is a daughter out there that might like to replicate that. It may be somebody, I can do this at home. If somebody's, you know, confined to the house, it may be an activity that they can feel worthwhile and contribute to. So this is something that's great. Oh, one other thing I did want to mention. When Cokesbury went out of business, I mean, they're not out of business. When they closed their stores, there's still a Cokesbury online. I picked up some little prayer books for the military. This is something, and they're like 3 by 5, not larger than that. So that's something you can think about. And the Episcopal Church has one. There's also another one I want to say Methodist. There is one I have seen for Catholics. There is also a prayer book for those persons that work in emergency work, like firemen or policemen. So if this is something that you are so inclined to do, you know, there are a lot of people we can thank for their service. And and it's pretty a thankless job. They'll run out, they'll do what they've got to do. It's emergency work and they're gone. You know, send something of merit, a prayer, and thanking them for their service. Send it to the fire station or to thank them in another way, or invite them to a service at your church. We don't want to forget about that kind of service that's provided.
I just want to add to that. We had a trip to the ER in just a couple of days after that helicopter went down, and the helicopter went down, and they had, I'm going to get saved, 10 or so flower arrangements and such. They basically had a shrine to those folks, and it was really moving to go by this thing and see people that
There is another area that I'd like to mention, and we have special populations. I am also a member of the National Alliance of Mental Illness. Mental illness, if you don't have it, you know somebody that has it, or there is a relative that has it. It surrounds us all the time. We must not forget those persons that need spiritual care. There is also within the Episcopal Church, I'm trying to think, I've only found one in Houston that specializes in working with the mentally ill. We would like to include in some way or in all ways those persons who may have a mental illness. So don't forget them. And we've talked about bereavement. Mental illness is one. Another category includes young people or even maybe older adults, but they're focusing primarily on younger people with disabilities. How can we have them inclusive, with our church, with our activities? You may have a family in your congregation that has a child with physical disabilities. What if this is a female of a junior daughter age? Can you make this young lady an honorary junior daughter? She may not be able to participate in everything. She may be even bedridden and cannot get out to the meetings. But is this something that this young lady can be included with? What do you think that might mean to her family to know that she is, even though they're members of your congregation, that she is still included in thoughts and prayers, although this child cannot be there physically? Think about that. And whatever your heart, the good Lord puts on your heart, go with it. There is a priest at the cathedral, at Christ Church Cathedral in Houston, that works with the homeless outreach. And she's been ordained maybe about 5 or 6 years. Her name is Reverend Glennis Como. And I read in her blog, I had spoken about the dialogue. This is a publication that comes out by the Diocese of Texas. And she has a real good article in there. And she made a comment in her article about working with the homeless can be dark work. I understand what she means by that. I do dark work in the school system. I work with special education students from 6th grade, that's like 12, up to 12th grade, which includes up to 22 years of age, and the law was passed in the state of Texas, and it may be nationwide, that special ed students can attend up to their 26. We don't talk about that. The idea of having a 26-year-old along with 12 and 13, years old, and we don't have many of them. There are special circumstances, and it's a legal type of thing. I work with students that have criminal backgrounds, that have been criminals, have done some really horrific things. But once they come out and they're labeled special ed because their behaviors cannot keep them in the regular classroom, this is considered dark work also. We are called to do all kinds of things. And I never thought of it as being dark work, but I can see how it can be. I don't encourage younger ladies to do it because it can be extremely hard on them. And it takes a special person to do that. But there is a niche for it. And we have people that may be trained that can do with that. We have people that are involved in prison ministries all the time. This is something we have not mentioned. If prison ministry is something that you cannot do, think about your treasure. You can buy Bibles and donate those to a prison ministry. You can ask somebody that's working with women in a prison ministry, what can I do to help you with this? If you know this is something you just can't do or choose not to do, think about your treasure. There are ways you can volunteer and you can contribute to this. We have a ministry in Houston, in Houston there is a ministry that works with children of parents who are incarcerated. So this is another area. They arrange for the parents to visit, and all this has to be done through your correctional system. They have their really strict guidelines where you can have maybe a reception or punching cookies or arrange when their children come to visit a pleasant environment to make it as relaxed, as it can be. It's going to be stressful, but these mothers do need to see their children, and the children do need to see their mothers. So think about that. There are all kinds of ways that we can provide service.